Well, you just saw the interview Kal Rudman had with, now that he's gone, Hulk Hogan, you know. I mean, was that an interview or an interview? Kal, gee, he ate you alive. I mean, you asked some very serious questions about Bob Backlund and all these other great wrestlers, and this guy, all he talked about was himself. Well, we've got the man himself here, and I'm just checking Bob Backlund. I checked your records just before we come on the interview tonight, and lo and behold, February 20th, 1978 was the time, the date at Madison Square Garden. You won the title, the belt, away from Billy Graham.
Yes, that's the day in February right now. Since that day on is my favorite month, and I really remember that night just like it was yesterday, and I'll never forget it. It was one of the proud moments that I ever had in any sports, amateur or professional, and it changed my whole life, and boy, I've been enjoying my life ever since that day.
Well, you know, Bob, nothing comes without some reason behind it, I feel. And the fact is, you've been a great champion. I would say this if you weren't here. I do say it to you because you wrestled everybody and anybody. I think you wrestled with a sort of an open contract. Anybody you thought was worthy of your attention, you wrestled him.
Well, I appreciate your comments on that. But yes, I do try to wrestle any comers. Anybody that's on the #1 contention, I want to wrestle them. If they're capable of beating me, they should be the champion. So I want to get into the ring and find out whether they are better than I am.
Well, you're a deceptive guy. We just saw, really, seriously, Hulk Hogan a few minutes ago. He's just physically just a monolith guy. But there's one thing that you've always said that I recall, I think in an interview I did with you a couple of years back, that skill will always outmatch strength. Do you still feel that way?
Yes, I do. It's skill and conditioning will last a lot longer than strength. You get into that ring, whether it be amateur wrestling on a mat or professional wrestling. If a guy's going to try to use strength, he's going to tire out. He's going to be balled up. He may do good for a minute or two, and then he's going to tire out, and you're going to get the best of him sooner or later.
Well, you know, fans, one night I was here at the Spectrum, as I usually am early, getting ready for appearing on Prism TV. And I went ringside just to check things out, and I happened to look up to the upper reaches of the Spectrum, and I saw this figure. Of course, he was very small at that point. He was up the top rows. Bob Backlund, running up and down the steps, and he was had done jogging around the inside of the Spectrum, I don't know how many times. Another time, I recall a few months back, I went into a dressing room where just Bob was. He was working out, I think, 500 or 600 push-ups. He does sit-ups in the hundreds. Here's a guy you think just shows up for maybe you think this, I don't know. You think he just shows up for the wrestling matches wherever he appears here at the Spectrum. Wrong. You'd like to tell about your training habits, Bob?
Well, I train about 3.5 hours a day, and you know what you were saying is very true. A lot of the fans think that there isn't a lot of work put into professional wrestling. There's probably more work put into professional wrestling as an individual than any other athlete. You know, we don't have 6'8" coaches telling us to get our weight down or telling us to keep in shape. We got to do it all on our own, and it takes a special person to be able to go into the gym all by himself without anybody bossing him, telling him he's going to get fined $100 or $200 if his weight doesn't get down to a certain amount, or if he doesn't get in the gym and get stronger. It's all on an individual basis, and you can be in as good a shape as you want, or you can be as poor a shape as you want. Of course, the guys that are on the top of professional wrestling or any sport are the ones that work the hardest.
Well, you know, it takes more than just the training to meet your opponents. You travel a lot. Now, I know you said before our interview you were home last night in Hartford, I believe, where you have your home. It's convenient for you. But you travel so much. 2 months ago in December, you were in Japan wrestling over there. Now, last month you came back here at the Spectrum. You were here at the Spectrum tonight, but you've been traveling all over. How do you manage the eating habits? How do you manage the sleeping? The travel has got to throw you off.
When you travel over to Japan, you lose a day, and it really messes up your sleeping schedule. You wake up about 4 in the afternoon, and it's 4 in the afternoon, and it's the wrong day, and it's the wrong time, and so it's hard to get adjusted. But I like to travel. I like to meet people all over the world, and I like to wrestle all over the world. Every day of my life is a pleasure. I don't get up in the morning and say, oh my gosh, I got to go to work today. I got to do this. I got to do that. What I do is what I want to do. I'm not one of those type of guys that live for the weekend. When I get up, I'm happy because I know I'm doing exactly what I want. I'm going to get up and go down to the gym and train. I'm going to do a little traveling. I'm going to meet some people. I'm good and get in that ring, and I'm going to wrestle and compete, which I love to do.
I think you communicate that, Bob, because I don't think there's a night that I've seen you in the past. I've been with Prism TV for about 3 or 4 years now, and I don't think I've seen you wrestle at any time that you didn't come on the ring scene totally up and exuberant and glad to be there and ready?
Well, you got to be ready, especially when you're the champion, because your opponent's going to do his darndest to beat you. You know, a lot of times I'll get in the ring with a guy and I'll convince him that he's not going to be able to beat me in wrestling. He's going to have to, you know, try to use some sneaky tactic, try to get away with something without the referee seeing it, and trying to use something against me to beat me. So I got to be ready 100%, whether it's going to be wrestling or whether the guy's going to try to kick me or bite me or whatever it is. I got to get in there and I got to be ready for it.
Well, Bob, I don't want to sit here faulting a lot of professional athletes, but we, I think, know of some, at least, put it that way, in various professional sports who don't really keep in good condition. What's your comment on that? Because I know you're totally into conditioning.
Well, I really enjoy conditioning, and I'm proud to be in condition. If I wasn't in condition, I wouldn't be in wrestling. I'd be a school teacher or a salesman or sell real estate. But I like being in condition, and I think any athlete should be in good condition. I hate to see a good athlete getting on a television or getting on an airplane and smoking a cigarette. Boy, that makes me hurt down, because I never want, you know, you see a lot of young kids smoking a cigarette because there's a so-called athlete out there smoking, making a good example, and boy, that burns me up.
All right, one good question here, Bob, as a final question for you during our intermission interview tonight. What advice could you give to kids who want to get into wrestling? Now, you come into wrestling from high school, then on to college, and you were a tremendous college athlete, and now, of course, in the professional ranks. What would you say to a young kid? Maybe I have a little guy, David, a 100-pound wrestler up in my area, Philadelphia, who won, by the way, pinned his guy in about a minute and a half. Very proud of him today. And anyway, what advice would you give to a young kid who wants to be a wrestler? Maybe like another Bob Backlund.
Well, he's got to start wrestling when he's real young. Start when he's 10, 9, 8, 7, 6.
How about the weights, Bob?
Not too much on the weights right away. You got to wait till your bones get developed and your joints get strong enough to be able to take the stress.
What age might we be talking about?
I'd say 15, 16. A kid can do a lot of push-ups and a lot of squats and a lot of sit-ups and things that he's going to get stronger in, flexibility movements when he's young, things that aren't going to hinder his development of his joints and stretch his ligaments out. But, you know, start when you're young, wrestling, go to your coach, go to the YMCA, wrestle in high school, wrestle in college, and then possibly there's a chance to get into professional wrestling. By the way, I sponsor kids' wrestling tournaments. I have 2 of them. I sponsored one in New York, which was last week. There was 520 kids in the tournament. It was one of the biggest tournaments ever on Long Island. And now I've got one coming up next weekend in Connecticut. It's going to be, right now we got enough applications in to make it the biggest tournament ever in Connecticut.
Well, now you begin to see why he is the champion. He's great with people. He has taken a lot out of wrestling, but of course he's given a lot to it. And of course he gives a lot from his position as champion of the Worldwide Wrestling Federation, Bob Backlund. Bob, thank you very much and continued good luck.
Well, it's my pleasure.
The assault, of an indecent nature, something not fit for a nice family courtroom, was it then?
This is Long John Baldry, and I'd like to tell you about Dick Deadeye. The police are baffled, for never before has a motion picture brought together such a gruesome collection of villains and cutthroats. But no hero has ever been more heroic.
I'm in the personal service of the Queen.
Oh, suck it to me, sister.
Yes, I am a judge.
Look at this loathsome, legal lord. But will he try the right man?
I'd love to try you.
Dick Deadeye is coming. He'll blow your mind.